I knew this day would come. I didn't know it would be a circus outside the courtroom. Talking about Diddy's trials finally underway, day one. And aside from what's to be expected, it was on my bingo card today that I would see the Misa Hilton using a walker. Girl, that's for the wrong child. All right, you white motherfuckers, all eyes on me. This is the I Refuse podcast. I'm Miss Fox, the I Refuse podcast. I had to come back up in here to continue the Surviving Diddy series in the perfect time. Day one of the racketeering and human sex trafficking case against Sean Combs by the state of New York and New York City has started. And I'm doing a reaction to it. So if you're new to the I Refuse podcast YouTube channel or the podcast as a whole, wherever you get your podcasts, I've been covering and starting this Surviving Diddy series literally the moment news broke that Cassandra Ventura, aka Cassie, filed I believe a civil suit against Diddy a little over a year ago. And within 24 hours of that, he settled. Now we're up to about 17, 18 parts in this series, most of which is on this YouTube channel, but I've also talked about it on the I Refuse podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. Season 6 is out, but the day has come. We have talked about the suit, we talked about Lil Rod, we've talked about the Department of Homeland Security raid, we've talked about the yacht girls, the yacht stewardesses filing their suit against a couple of his kids. We've talked about what the Abuse Survivors Act is about. We've talked about a whole lot of things. This is just adding to that. Where we are right now is they've already started their opening arguments. The defense, the prosecution, they've already rolled out the first set of witnesses to take the stand. It's said that Cassie is due to testify, and everybody's waiting for that. You know, the innovator that broke this thing open. And I'm not even, there's so much I could just talk about, kind of the challenges for both sides, what I think may happen, if he'll actually be convicted, serve time, will it be a lesser degree, or will he get off? I'm going to start with what got us to this point, right? I would definitely dare to say that Cassie Ventura is the one that kicked this off. And along the way, there's been older hotel footage released that confirms the abuse. There has been allegations of underage girls being sent by megabus or motor coach or whatever to the house up in the hills. There's been allegations of stuff in baby oil, IVs, people being recorded without their consent in the house that was raided. The other thing, the major stuff that's been alleged is domestic violence, sexual assault, rape, force, coercion, intimidation. Oh, let's see. Using money to get bodyguards and security folks to intimidate victims, intimidate witnesses, things of that nature. And then there's all this other stuff that may come up during this trial. One thing that I don't think a lot of people would would consider when they file a suit or use a lawyer to file something or allege something in a lot of documents is that if and when your stuff makes it to trial or is used as part of a trial like this, your stuff may be called out on the mat. Now, where it stands right now, that in addition to high profile people being in the gallery, they're saying that Lil Rod is in the gallery. He's one of the accusers who used a lawyer by the name of Tyrone, I believe. We covered that in one of our videos on this YouTube channel. Is there. In addition to, of course, all of Diddy's kids. His mom is there. Like I said, Misa Hilton is there. She used a walker to get the showcase in front of the courthouse. The circus is in town. Mama Janice has one of her different wigs on, curly hair, gaudy ghetto girl glasses. His twins are there. And unfortunately, when you come to such a high profile case that has a slew of allegations and charges associated with it, in Diddy's case, there's a lot of personal stuff being brought up. Intimate stuff, how this man likes to get down, per se, his voyeuristic kinks, his interests, using Cassie, so to speak, as the middleman between himself and the sex workers. Nothing wrong with sex work. Get your money, get your coin. But what's being said so far is that what's part of the request directly to the performer or the stripper or the sex worker isn't the reality that they experience. They've had 2 strippers on the stand. It's been reported that they were male escorts. Each have testified to the same thing, that they were contacted by their boss, who was contacted by the couple. It was communicated to them that there is a couple that would like to hire you for stripping services. They get the information, they get one amount, or it's presented as one amount. They go to the location. Cassie opens up the door. She has on red lingerie. This is all alleged. Red lingerie, red shades, red wig, red pumps, and she gives them a higher amount. And she gives them the rundown, which is my significant other. It was communicated to the escort, the sex worker, that it was husband and wife. They go into the room. A man comes out with a bandana over his mouth and a bandana over his eyes. He's in a white robe. It gives the impression that this man is trying to hide his identity. But the moment he starts speaking, both of these men know who this person is. The first stage is that Cassie and the sex worker, the male escort, as they've said, is supposed to oil one another up, rub each other, get worked up a little bit, while Sean's in the corner directing, rubbing on themselves, so on and so forth. At some point, the first stage goes into the next stage, which is their physical, their sex that's had without protection, and there are future requests being made, which each individual man testified that there were additional bouts, so to speak, but in each of their individual testimonies, they said that there was a moment they witnessed where Sean, got aggressive and physical with Cassie, pushing her into the next room, closing the door. They hear slapping. There is some injuries, and their reaction to that is they're not able to perform. So here is where the challenging part comes in for the prosecution. You know, the opening statements, as reported, were not that were told very matter of factly. There wasn't a lot of passion or animation in the delivery. But at the end of the day, legally, it is on the prosecution to prove that there was racketeering, that there was any crime involved, and that there was human trafficking. It's kind of wafer thin at this point. It is a heavy lift. You know, while you have a person that's powerful, it could be easily argued that this person giving money to the bodyguard or giving to the security guard is to protect himself and protect his paramour at the time. It could be argued against the human trafficking if the best you got so far are two sex workers, which I don't think it's legal in all 50 states, but that's another argument for another day. This is what they do. They get hired to service clients, and the only thing, and it's not illegal to present one thing and then the reality is something different, especially if you've gone through as a willing participant in the reality of the situation. The other thing is for it's in totality, it's not, while it is very, very sad and very, very dangerous, domestic violence, I mean, they could nail him to the wall for assault, for anything around domestic violence. But when's the last time you heard somebody serving life for that? So I don't. It could be a real problem for the prosecution if the idea is for him to serve a lengthy prison sentence. The human trafficking part, that would entail, in my opinion, like some form of kidnapping, and also moving people across state lines or across countries for the sole purpose of sex and prostitution. Now, you've been outside as long as I have. When you have like situations where kids are kidnapped from another country or another state and sold into prostitution or sold into a life of sex and sex work and all that other stuff, yeah, that would fall into that category. Where it stands right now, it's not giving that. But it's still early. They presume that this would take about 6 to 8 weeks to go through the entire trial. And as we said in one of our earlier videos, allegedly there's a lot of people that the city and the state has called as witnesses to testify against Sean Combs. So it's still early. It's just right now it's not giving that. On the other hand, it's, Sean, even from behind courtroom doors, even behind prison walls, not short on stunts. Reading the Bible, they say, in court. Giving off a stoic face, not saying a whole lot, not really being connected to what's going on, so to speak. Me saying this damn Walker is what's frying me, though. So, Misa, what, sidebar, Misa, what's the Walker about? We did in one of our earlier videos, not tied to the Surviving Diddy series on the channel, talked about the Misa suit against Mary J. Blige and stuff. The moment I saw her using that Walker, I'm like, you using that on the wrong trial, boo. This isn't the $5 million trial that, you want to make happen. This, I feel like this is just another thing, how you have those accident lawsuits that, that people put on and people come in neck braces and stuff like that. Sean and Misa have kids. All the kids are grown with the exception of his twins and his youngest baby that he has by the name of Love. Other than that, like all those other kids, Justin, the two other ones, Albie Shore's son, all grown. But Misa, what you trying to go for like sympathy, emotional anguish? I feel like he put you up to that. And she is working that Walker, by the way. She's walking like Miss Jane Pittman outside the courthouse. And nobody knows what it's for. Like, why do you need this? Is Vito blowing your back out? What's going on? At any rate, I think the saddest part is the details that the kids have to hear. Like, I don't think they were prepared for, or his mom was prepared for, all the stuff coming out about what he's into, what the two of the women are alleging happened. In addition to having Cassie in the camera and on his side, overlapping with Kim, who was overlapping with J-Lo and all that other stuff, he was still food out line on Cassie, while also trying to alienate and isolate her from the paramours that she had. As I said in a previous video in the series, all the other stuff that came out in the allegations in her suit. There are two women that were called to testify one of them was a regular woman. She wasn't industry or celebrity or anything. She was kind of looped into the so-called freak-offs. And she testified that she was doing it to please him. She wanted to be serious and public. Him not so much. And, this is one of those gray areas where it's like, there is a distinction between being a willing participant and being forced and coerced. If you're doing something to make somebody happy, there could be some space in there to argue that, well, if you didn't do it, what was the consequence? Because here you have a guy that has a history of having a bad temper, getting physical with at least two of his girlfriends, Kim Porter and Cassie. Of course, those details were mentioned in Cassie's lawsuit that we talked about. We don't think he was ever physical with J-Lo because, I mean, and we don't really know if he was physical with Misa. Um, but it's often been said that abuse is not just physical. There are other forms of abuse: psychological, emotional, mental. And while he probably wasn't physically abusive with the regular women, he probably was mentally or emotionally or psychologically abusive. I mean, there's a lot of gray area as to what to argue there for or against the women, because that's the other thing. When you are called to testify, you are not only questioned by the person or the side that you have been called by, but you're also being cross-examined by the opposing counsel. So I'm sure it pretty much got sticky. I mean, the prosecution are definitely the ones that are calling the witnesses to the stand. And of course, the defense has a responsibility to cross examine and argue or poke holes in these women's testimony, even down to their position. It gets pretty ugly. There was mention that the children, some of the girls left out. Um, there was some nonverbal confirmation when it got to certain details with the male escorts. Nonverbal confirmation between two of the sons when it came out that Cassie was the one in charge of the boys. Um, Allegedly peeing on the escorts. It wasn't Diddy in charge of the boys. Um, and it's so weird to me because it's like no matter how you cut this, y'all, I understand parents and kids, like kids want to be in support of their father or their mother if they're on trial. But the nodding between the two sons, as if it was an ace in the hole, no pun intended, for their father, it's like at the end of the day, like your father was physically abusive, your father was emotionally abusive, your father was using intimidation tactics to alienate and isolate their youngest girlfriend from their paramours. Guns and ammunition and blown up cars and stuff. Like, that's not a flex. I mean, not all loyalty is good loyalty. So it's I get the sense that the daughters are embarrassed. The daughters are sick to their stomach. Um, I don't know if they came back. The boys, listen, we did a whole video about the yacht girls, the yacht stewardesses, using the same lawyer that Lil Rai used to file a suit or allegations claiming SA by Justin and the one that don't look like him or kind of look like him, but they saying looks like the bodyguard he had back in the day. It's Christian and Justin. Bam. So it I still just can't get over. I can't get over Misa with that damn Walker. Like, man, you're not even old enough. I'm like, this it's a fucking circus, but it you run the risk. You know, the majority of his kids are in their 20s. And maybe I'm thinking too much into it, but I feel like those two middle boys, not Quincy. I hope Quincy got far away from that situation. But those two middle boys, Is it me, or do you feel like they're like literally walking in his footsteps? Like, you gotta understand, like, all of his kids were born into this lifestyle and don't know anything of a lesser degree. Working class, 40-hour work week, um, public school, um, 2-year college, community college life, catching the bus to work, all that other stuff. Like, they were born into this. And you have to, it makes me wonder, like, if they are constantly going to court and listening to this other side of the lifestyle, and you have the two boys like nodding in some gotcha moment in their minds about some of the freaky deaky shit that they're trying to nail on their father, and it comes to find out that this one minute detail between of Cassie and the male escorts and it not being their father, it makes you wonder, like, what all y'all doing? And if this man were to go, if all this stuff was to come out and be illegal in some degree and he was sent back to jail, what would the kids do? Some freaky shit is now legal. You kind of fuck stuff up when you are recording people without consent, when you are intimidating folks, you are causing bodily harm, and you are making threats to people's lives. Day one, and we're just getting started. Um, this shit's just sad all around. Like I said, it's everybody has a freak level. Some people try to downplay it. Um, but then you have people out here that have a dark side to them and they are using finance and their support system or their staff to protect them and protect those that they are trying to keep control of. But every once in a while, you slip up. And no matter what you do, you can't, it's going to come out. Dirt always comes out in the wash. And this could be the one for the summer. It may not be on the level of OJ because that took a few years to get to trial. And there were all kinds of stunts pulled in that one. I'm sure this is very embarrassing for the kids. I'm sure it's very disgusting and sick to the girl's stomach, his daughters. Um, the word on the curb is that Diddy gets this from his mama. And you know how TikTok For You pages and comment sections are. People want to talk like they know what they're talking about. I theorize that the boys are definitely following in his footsteps. And there may even, dare I say, there may even be a day or a week where some of those kids are called to testify, especially those boys, and their stuff is pulled out in the mat. Just a theory. I don't know. I'm no Megan Cuniff. I'm no law and crime YouTube channel. I just know I've been outside long enough, and between experiencing major hip hop moments connected to this man from the early 90s to now, how some things aren't adding up. I saw Jaguar Wrights out there looking like, trying to look like Sister Soldier. I'm not ready to give up on her. At the end of the day, you have people out here that are giving you food for thought. Why isn't anybody questioning how major players behind Uptown just mysteriously died? Had heart issues, blood clots. Albie Shore was almost Albie gone. He's even talking. Thank goodness he bounced back. He's not the same, but he's making the rounds again, and he has reason to believe that Diddy was connected to Kim's demise. But once you step into that courtroom, folks, it is on your shoulders to prove what is being alleged. Well, like I said, the prosecution really has the heaviest lift. The defense, probably not so much. A lot of what's being alleged possibly can be argued away. It's still relatively early, like I said, so, the witnesses so far, there's probably more since the production of this episode, and we'll be keeping tabs. If the best you can do to start out are women that weren't able to get a public relationship in front of people, that they're with Diddy while he's doing what he's always been doing, if that's the best you can do, they made a choice. They were willing to do whatever to please him. It's still a lot of gray area, and it's still relatively early. Let me see what else. The details, as far as like text messages, Astroglide, roleplay, and disguises, is this as good as it gets? Still day one. But we're going to keep it locked and loaded. And in the meantime, you'll hit that follow and subscribe button on that YouTube channel. You'll start listening or continue to listen to the I Refuse podcast wherever you get your podcasts. You'll continue to support the YouTube channel where you're listening and watching this video. You'll get into Usual Suspects podcast and the I Refuse podcast After Dark. And we will keep it locked as we continue our Surviving Diddy series. Mr. Fox I Refuse podcast, 6 seasons available wherever you get your podcasts. Link in the bio, social media, all that other stuff, the blog, access to the other shows. Available wherever you see me and you hear my voice. We will catch you guys later. Peace out. Day 1 of the racketeering human trafficking trial case against Diddy by New York City. Many, many days to follow. Ooh, it's getting juicy. Fendi, like the bag. This is the